Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to day 38 of our Bhakti Vaibhava seminar on Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 4. And now we are starting chapter 18, which is titled Prithu Maharaj Milks the Earth Planet. Let us first of all chant our prayers. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastya Chadesha Tarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchkalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha. Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Right, so then we're beginning chapter 18. There are 4 sections, there are 32 verses. And the sections are as follows. First section from verse 1 to 11. Yeah, it's a long introduction, but it seems that it's the right thing to do. And recall this, King Prithu is not satisfied, so the earth explains why she is withholding. Second section is just verse 12 on its own. Prithu makes Swayambhuva Manu into a calf and milks the earth. The third section is verse 13 to verse 27. Others make calves and milk the earth. Fourth section, verse 28 to verse 32, which is the end of the chapter. The earth satisfies Prithu Maharaj and receives his mercy. Right, very good. So let us get into it. First section, verse 1 to verse 11. King Prithu is not satisfied, so the earth explains why she is withholding. Right, yes, verse 1 to verse 11, so here we go. We'll read through the verses, of course. Verse 1. The great Saint Maitreya continued to address Vidura. My dear Vidura, at that time, after the planet Earth finished her prayers, King Prithu was still not pacified, and his lips trembled in great anger. Although the planet Earth was frightened, she made up her mind and began to speak as follows in order to convince the king. 2. My dear Lord, please pacify your anger completely and hear patiently whatever I submit before you. Please turn your kind attention to this. I may be very poor, but a learned man takes the essence of knowledge from all places, just as a bumblebee collects honey from each and every flower. Verse 3. To benefit all human society, not only in this life but in the next, the great seers and sages have prescribed various methods conducive to the prosperity of the people in general. Verse 4. One who follows the principles and instructions enjoined by the great sages of the past can utilize these instructions for practical purposes. Such a person can very easily enjoy life and pleasures. Verse 5. A foolish person who manufactures his own ways and means through mental speculation and does not recognize the authority of the sages who lay down unimpeachable directions, is simply unsuccessful again and again in his attempts. Verse 6, my dear king, the seeds, roots, herbs, and grains, which were created by Lord Brahma in the past, are now being used by non-devotees who are devoid of all spiritual understanding. So now the earth is beginning to explain why she has been withholding grains, etc. Verse 7, my dear king, Not only are grains and herbs being used by non-devotees, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm not being properly maintained. Indeed, I'm being neglected by kings who are not punishing these rascals who have turned into thieves by using grains for sense gratification. Consequently, I've hidden all these seeds, which were meant for the performance of sacrifice. Verse 8. Due to being stocked for a very long time, all the grain seeds within me have certainly deteriorated. Therefore, you should immediately arrange to take these seeds out by the standard process, which is recommended by the acharyas or shastras. Verses 9 and 10. A great hero, protector of living entities. If you desire to relieve the living entities by supplying them sufficient grain, and if you desire to nourish them by taking milk from me, you should make arrangements to bring a calf suitable for this purpose, and a pot in which the milk can be kept, as well as a milkman to do the work. Since I'll be very much affectionate towards my calf, your desire to take milk from me will be fulfilled. And verse 11, my dear king, may I inform you that you have to make the entire surface of the globe level. This will help me, even when the rainy season has ceased. Rainfall comes by the mercy of King Indra. Rainfall will remain on the surface of the globe, always keeping the earth moistened, and thus it will be auspicious for all kinds of production. Right, so let's go through again with purports where they are. Verse 1. The great saint Maitreya continued to address Vidura. My dear Vidura, at that time, after the planet Earth finished her prayers, King Prithu was still not pacified, and his lips trembled in great anger. Although the planet Earth was frightened, she made up her mind and began to speak as follows, in order to convince the king. Verse 2. My dear Lord, please pacify your anger completely, and hear patiently whatever I submit before you. Please turn your kind attention to this. I may be very poor, but a learned man takes the essence of knowledge from all places, just as a bumblebee collects honey from each and every flower. 3. To benefit all human society, not only in this life but in the next, the great seers and sages have prescribed various methods conducive to the prosperity of the people in general. All right. So here we do have a purport by Srila Prabhupada, and it is fairly substantial. It's 3 paragraphs. So Prabhupada points out Vedic civilizations based on the Vedas, of course, which are presented by sages and Brahmins for humanity's benefit. So the Vedic injunctions are called Shruti. That's basically the 4 Vedas and their immediate corollaries like the Upanishads and others. But then the supplementary presentations from the sages are called Smriti, because the 4 Vedas, at least the what are called the Samhitas, that particular part of the 4 Vedas, they're spoken by Lord Narayan. But now these supplementary presentations from sages are called Smriti. And this is like the Puranas, Mahabharata, the histories, and things like this. But they're all based on the Vedas. If you want to progress, you have to follow these things. So in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami says that if you pose yourself as being advanced spiritually without reference to the Shruti and the Smriti, you just create a disturbance. They have to be followed if you're trying to lead a spiritual life or even just a material life. Yeah. And for human society, they should follow the Manu Smriti, I mean, it's sort of, yeah, that's, at least going back to the Vedic times, they should follow Manu Smriti. Now, today, in the 21st century, we would say that's kind of, it's probably best to follow Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam like that, and the explanations of Srila Prabhupada. So anyway, there's now the second paragraph, some talk about Manu Smriti, and also Shruti and Smriti. I mean, there's more to the Smriti than just the Manu Smriti, all the Puranas, etc. So anyway, Manu Smriti says women should never be given independence, be under the care of the father, in childhood, husband in maturity, and sons in old age. But basically some guardian should be there. Nowadays, of course, women have independence. The whole idea is to become happier. Of course, many or however many were abused, because those who are meant to be taking care of them in however many, so many cases were not. So, but Prabhupada makes the point, they don't really seem to be any happier now that they're independent than when they had guardians, and particularly when the guardians were good guardians. So people should follow Shruti and Smriti. But rascals, modern population, are inventing ways to become happy. So humanity has lost its standards, the standard ways of life, materially and spiritually. People are bewildered. There's such a lack of peace and happiness. Trying to solve the problems with the United Nations, but it is not really working very well, unfortunately. And it's all because they're not following the instructions of the Vedas. So in the third paragraph, Prabhupada says, there are two significant words in this verse. Asmin, which means in this life, and anusmin, which means in the next life. And unfortunately, even the most intelligent people, the professors, they don't even believe in the next life. They think everything's finished at the end of this life. So, since they're rascals and fools, what advice can they give? But still people accept them as being intelligent. So, but here the word amushmin is explicit. The duty of everyone is to mold their life so that they'll have a profitable, successful, nice next life. Just as a boy or someone is educated to become happy later when they can get, on the basis of the education, good employment, so one should be educated now to have a better life after death. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, it's therefore essential that people follow what is given in the Shrutis and Smritis to make sure that the human mission is successful. Right, so verse 4. One who follows the principles and instructions enjoined by the great sages of the past can utilize these instructions for practical purposes. Such a person can very easily enjoy life and pleasures. So we have a shorter purport here. So the Vedic principles say, and it's not just the Vedic principles, Lord Chaitanya says in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Mahajano Yena Gata Sapanta, we should follow the Mahajans, the liberated souls. Then we can benefit in this life and the next life, both spiritually and materially. And by following the principles of the Mahajans, we can understand the aim of life, the goal of life. Prabhupada says the word avara, which means inexperienced, is significant. All conditioned souls are like that, inexperienced. They don't know what's going on, up or down, what to do, what not to do. Everyone, Prabhupada says, is a bodha jata. They're born fools, born rascals. So in democratic governments now, fools and rascals are making the decisions. And they enact some legislation today, tomorrow they repeal it, or they modify it, they change it. One party that has a certain outlook on life makes certain laws. Next time the other party, who's have different outlook on life, they come in and they change those things. So it's Kali Yuga, it's all confused. So Srila Prabhupada says that this is chewing the chewed. Chewing the chewed, yes. And this is stated actually in Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.30. If you're just chewing the chewed, life cannot be happy, it's just not possible. Like, if you've ever chewed chewing gum, I don't really recommend it, but if when you're a child before Krishna consciousness, then at first they put sugar on the top and tastes nice, but after a few minutes you get to the actual gum, it's just totally tasteless. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, in order to make all human society happy and prosperous, we should accept the standard methods given by liberated persons. Verse 5. A foolish person who manufactures his own ways and means through mental speculation and doesn't recognize the authority of the sages who lay down unimpeachable directions is simply unsuccessful again and again in his attempts. So, Prabhupada comments, nowadays it's fashionable to disobey the Acharya's directions. People are so fallen, they don't know who's a liberated soul, who's a conditioned soul. And their standards for liberated, even sometimes what they would consider a liberated soul, it is someone who just doesn't follow the morality that people were following before. So that person's liberated, they think, from these unnecessary moral rules like, you can't have sex with whoever you like. You can't just drink liquor any time as much as you like. These are traditional moral rules. So someone's considered liberated if they just don't bother with those rules. Anyway, the conditioned soul has 4 defects that we know. Sure to commit mistakes, sure to become illusioned, tendency to cheat others, and senses are imperfect. So we have to take direction from the actually transcendentally liberated persons. And in this Krishna consciousness movement in ISKCON, we take direction from Krishna, first of all, and then from his strict followers. First and foremost, Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada makes the point that a follower may not actually be a liberated person, because he or she is just trying to follow, but they're not so advanced yet. It takes time. But if such a sincere person follows the Supreme Liberated Personality of Godhead, then that person's actions are naturally liberated. So therefore Lord Chaitanya says, by my order, you may become a spiritual master. So you can immediately become a spiritual master if you have full faith in the transcendental words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and you follow his instructions. And of course, if you follow the great devotees who are following his instructions. But materialistic people, they're not interested in doing that. And because they're not interested like that, they keep failing and failing and failing. And we see that. The politicians, how they're failing, it's fantastic. And even the so-called intelligent people, they're failing, having to come up with new theories all the time. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, because the entire world is now following the imperfect directions of conditioned souls, humanity is completely bewildered. Prabhupada, sometimes he uses this just like absolute language, completely bewildered, because it's like that. So on to verse 6. My dear king, the seeds, roots, herbs and grains, which were created by Lord Brahma in the past, are now being used by non-devotees who are devoid of all spiritual understanding. So the thing is here, and this is a very important point, as the title of this section states, now Earth, Mother Earth, in the form of a cow, is going to actually explain why she is withholding the grains, the seeds, and like that. It's because all these things are being used by non-devotees in the wrong ways, and it's very bad. So anyway, let's have a look at the purport here. So Lord Brahma created this world for the use of the living entities, but he did that in such a way that eventually they'd become cured of their anti-God ideas and take up Krishna consciousness and go back to Godhead. That's the idea. Yes. So all the necessities that are grown on earth, fruits, vegetables, and grains, you name it, they were created for use in sacrifice for Lord Vishnu. But now here, the earth, Mother Earth in the form of the cow, is saying that all these things are just being used by non-devotees. They're not being used in sacrifice. Therefore she's withholding, because she doesn't like this, being exploited by the non-devotees. So although there's immense potency in the earth to produce huge amounts of grains, vegetables, fruits, just the necessities which can maintain so many billions of people, much more than there are now. But when the earth sees things are being misused by non-devotees, she withholds production. So rather, everything should be used for the Lord and not for sense gratification. This is Mother Earth's whole idea. I mean, it's interesting. She was running around trying to escape, and she was saying this and saying that, trying to get Maharaj Prithu to stop, to not kill her. But only now, eventually, she's explaining the actual reason. And it's a very valid reason. It's a very important reason, actually. So anyway, in the second paragraph, Prabhupada says that in this verse, the words asadbi and adritavratai are important. Asadbi means non-devotees. So in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna lists out the groups of non-devotees as follows. The Duskritina means the miscreants, the Mudhas, the asses or the rascals, the Naradamas, the lowest of mankind, and Mayaya Paritagyana, those who've had their knowledge, who've lost their knowledge, those who've lost their knowledge to the power of the illusory energy. By the power of Maya, they've lost their knowledge. So they're all asat, non-devotees, or asadbi. So the non-devotees are also called grihavrata, whereas devotees are called dritavrata. Grihavrata basically means, although Prabhupada doesn't really address it here so much, let me just check, not so much actually. Grihavrata means they have taken a vow to just absorb themselves 100% in household existence based on sex life. Whereas the devotees, that dritavrata, they have taken great vow and unbreakable vow, hopefully, to satisfy Krishna's senses. And they'll become happy by doing that. So the whole Vedic plan is for the conditioned souls to be trained to become dritavrata, to just focus on Krishna, try to satisfy him, and to be happy by doing that. Well, Krishna gives mercy, he gives happiness, satisfaction to those who satisfy him. So the activities for that purpose are called Krishnarte Kila Cheshta, which basically means you can do any work. I mean, maybe not absolutely any work, but practically any work. But it just must be for Krishna's satisfaction, that's all. I mean, please, no selling intoxication, no killing animals and selling their flesh and stuff like that. But practically anything else you can do for Krishna's satisfaction. And in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna calls this yagyartat karma. It's based on yagya, sacrifice. So the word yagya indicates Lord Vishnu. We should actually work for his satisfaction only. But it's Kali Yuga. Welcome to Kali Yuga. And everyone's forgotten him, and they're just into sense gratification, their own sense gratification. So Prabhupada makes the point. And it's the point existing here is that such people are just exploiting material nature for their own sense gratification. Gradually, they'll become poverty-stricken because of misusing things meant for being offered to Krishna. And this is why Maharaj Prithu here, he's noticed, because Mother Earth is withholding the grains and other things. Therefore, everyone is hungry, but it's even including the devotees, actually. Yeah. But because wherever they are, the non-devotees are just taking things and using them for sense gratification. So yeah, if people carry on like this, Prabhupada says gradually there'll be a state of poverty and no foodstuffs will be produced. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, Indeed, it's stated in the 12th canto of Bhagavatam that at the end of Kali Yuga, people will be so polluted that there will no longer be any grains, wheat, sugar cane, or milk. Amazing. So verse 7, my dear king, not only are grains and herbs being used by non-devotees, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm not being properly maintained. Indeed, I'm being neglected by kings who are not punishing these rascals who have turned into thieves by using grains for sense gratification. Consequently, Mother Earth says, I have hidden all these seeds which are meant for the performance of sacrifice. And therefore everyone, and it seems even the devotees, are starving. So Prabhupada makes the point, what a point. The same things are happening now. Just look around. Just look around. It's a sad situation. There are huge industrial and agricultural productions, all for sense gratification. But still there's scarcity because of thieves. Prabhupada says that in this verse 7, the word chori bhute indicates that the population has turned to thievery. The Vedic understanding is that people, change into thieves when they plan economic development for sense gratification. So the Gita says, if one eats grains without offering them to the Lord, one's a thief, liable to be punished. Spiritual communism says all properties belong to the Lord, and people have a right to use those things only after offering them to the Lord. That's the process for accepting prasad. And if you don't eat prasad, if you just eat food unoffered, then you're certainly a thief. So it's the duty of the kings, the heads of governments, to punish such thieves. If that isn't done, sooner or later the grains will not be produced, people will starve. And it's happening now. And even, Prabhupada makes a dramatic point. They just won't be able to eat enough, and they'll become cannibals. Hare Krishna. Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, they're already killing animals for flesh. So when there'll no longer be grains, vegetables, and fruits, they'll kill their own sons and fathers and eat their flesh for sustenance. That's what the 12th canto says. Verse 8, due to being stocked for a very long time, all the grain seeds within me have certainly deteriorated. Therefore, you should immediately arrange to take these seeds out by the standard process, which is recommended by the acharyas or shastras. Yes, so there's purport here, a couple of paragraphs. So, when there's a scarcity of grains, the government should use methods from Shastra for growing grains. Government should just take the matter in hand and get it together so that grains are produced prolifically. Yeah, and then there'll be enough grains and famine will be checked. So Bhagavad Gita, that's the recommendation of Bhagavad Gita Yajna. Then when there's nice yajna going on, clouds will come, there'll be rain, and then there'll be sufficient grains for people and animals. So therefore humanity should do yajnas, the yajnas mentioned in Shastra. But the problem is that now those old yajnas, you can't do them actually. So therefore the yajna for this age is Sankirtan yajna. That's what should actually be done. So on to the second paragraph. So there are two significant words here. Yogena means by the approved method, and drishtena as exemplified by the former acharyas. So Prabhupada says, if you think that we will use machines like tractors, etc., then we'll produce loads of grains and everything will be great. You are mistaken. If you go to a desert and use a tractor, you're not going to be producing grains. Yeah. So it's essential to know that planet Earth will stop producing grains if sacrifices are not performed. And that means, what does it mean? Sankirtan, sacrifice. Sankirtan yagya in this age. So the earth says here, she is purposely withholding seeds for the performance of yagya. Of course, the atheists, Krishna, the atheists, they won't believe this. But the fact is there that we're not independent to produce grains by mechanical means. Now we've got to do Sankirtan Yagya. So as we've read, one who's not Krishna conscious is a thief, may be materially advanced, but they're still thieves. A thief is a thief and is punishable. And because how have people become thieves? Because they're without Krishna consciousness. And so they're being punished, and they will be further punished by the laws of material nature. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, no one can check this, not even by introducing so many relief funds and humanitarian missions, humanitarian institutions. Unless the people of the world take to Krishna consciousness, there will be a scarcity of food and much suffering. Verses 9 and 10, still Mother Earth. O great hero, protector of living entities, if you desire to relieve the living entities by supplying them sufficient grain, and if you desire to nourish them by taking milk from me, you should make arrangements to bring a calf suitable for this purpose and a pot in which the milk can be kept, as well as a milkman to do the work. Since I will be very much affectionate towards my calf, your desire to take milk from me will be fulfilled. So Prabhupada begins the purport by saying, these are nice instructions for milking a cow. The cow must first have a calf, so that out of affection for the calf, she will voluntarily give sufficient milk. Okay, that's great. Then, of course, there must be an expert milkman who can really do it nicely and encourage the cow and the calf. And then you need a suitable pot, a container to keep the milk in. So, because the cow, it's not always the case actually, but generally, the cow won't give milk without being affectionate to the calf. So the earth cannot produce sufficient necessities without feeling affection for those who are Krishna conscious. So the earth's being in the form of a cow is not just figurative. The meaning is explicit, Prabhupada says. Just as a calf can get milk from a cow, all living entities can get their food from the planet Earth, provided the humans are not asat or adrita vrata. When humans become asat, ungodly, the entire world suffers. But if humans are well behaved, the animals will also get food and be happy. So ungodly human, the ungodly human, ignorant of his duty to protect and give food to animals, kills them to compensate for the insufficient production of grains. It's terrible. It's crazy. So therefore no one's satisfied. And that's the cause for the present condition in today's world. And you know, an interesting point is that now it is worse than it was when Prabhupada was present. It's worse. You can just see how these things are true. So verse 11, my dear king, may I inform you that you have to make the entire surface of the globe level. This will help me, even when the rainy season has ceased. Rainfall comes by the mercy of King Indra. Rainfall will remain on the surface of the globe, always keeping the earth moistened, and thus it will be auspicious for all kinds of production. Right, so Prabhupada says a few words here. Indra, of course, is in charge of rain and thunderbolts. Thunderbolts he throws on the tops of the hills to break the hills into pieces, and then they can be flattened. So when they're broken, the surface of the earth becomes flat and usable for agriculture, because level land is best for growing grains, obviously. Better than, some steep mountain. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, thus the planet Earth requested Maharaj Prithu to level the surface of the earth, breaking up the high land and mountains. Right, so that's a very interesting introduction, isn't it? That's interesting. So now the second section is just one verse. It's verse 12. Prithu makes Swayambhuva Manu into a calf and milks the earth. Verse 12. So it's just a verse, there's not even a purport to it. After hearing the auspicious and pleasing words of the planet Earth, the king accepted them. He accepted what Mother Earth was saying. He then transformed Swayambhuva Manu into a calf and milked all the herbs and grains from the earth in the form of a cow, keeping them in his cupped hands. Okay, right. So that's interesting. He transformed Swayambhuva Manu into a calf, and then it sounds like he means Prithu, milked all the herbs and grains from the earth in the form of a cow, and kept all those herbs and grains in his cupped hands. So, okay, the third section is verse 13 to verse 27. And we call it, others make calves and milk the earth. So others get into the program. Verse 13 to 27, I'll just read through the verses. 13, others who were as intelligent as King Prithu also took the essence out of the earthly planet. Indeed, everyone took this opportunity to follow in the footsteps of King Prithu and get whatever he desired from the planet Earth. Verse 14, all the great sages transformed Brihaspati into a calf, and making the senses into a pot, they milked all kinds of Vedic knowledge to purify words, mind, and hearing. Wow. From the earth. Verse 15, all the demigods made Indra, the king of heaven, into a calf, and from the earth they milked the beverage soma, which is nectar. Thus they became very powerful in mental speculation and body and sensual strength. 16, The sons of Diti and the demons transformed Prahlad Maharaj, who was born in an Asura family, he was born in a demoniac family, into a calf. And they extracted various kinds of liquor and beer, which they put into a pot made of iron. 17. The inhabitants of Gandharva Loka and Apsara Loka made Vishvavasu into a calf, and they drew the milk into a lotus flower pot. The milk took the shape of sweet musical art and beauty. Oh, Krishna, amazing. Verse 18. The fortunate inhabitants of Pitriloka, who preside over the funeral ceremonies, made Aryama into a calf. With great faith they milked kavya, food offered to the ancestors, into an unbaked earthen pot. Verse 19. After this, the inhabitants of Siddhaloka, as well as the inhabitants of Vidyadhara Loka, transformed the great sage Kapila into a calf, and making the whole sky into a pot, they milked out specific yogic mystic powers, beginning with anima. Indeed, the inhabitants of Vidyadhara Loka acquired the art of flying in the sky. Verse 20. Others also, the inhabitants of planets known as Kimpurusha Loka, made the demon Maya into a calf, and they milked out mystic powers by which one can disappear immediately from another's vision and appear again in a different form. 21. Then the yakshas, rakshasas, ghosts, and witches, who are habituated to eating flesh, transformed Lord Shiva's incarnation Rudra, known as also as Bhutanath, into a calf, and milked out beverages made of blood, and put them in a pot made of skulls. Hare Krishna. Wow. Verse 22. Thereafter cobras and snakes without hoods, large snakes, scorpions, and many other poisonous animals took poison out of the planet Earth as their milk, and kept this poison in snake holes. They made a calf out of Takshaka. Who's a snake? I mean, yeah, really, like special snake. Verses 23 and 24. The four-legged animals, like the cows, made a calf out of the bull who carries Lord Shiva, and made a milking pot out of the forest. Thus, they got fresh green grasses to eat. Ferocious animals like tigers transformed a lion into a calf, and thus they were able to get flesh for milk. The birds made a calf out of Garuda and took milk from the planet Earth in the form of moving insects and non-moving plants and grasses. Verse 25. The trees made a calf out of the banyan tree, and thus they derived milk in the form of many delicious juices. The mountains transformed the Himalayas into a calf, and they milked a variety of minerals into a pot made of the peaks of hills. Verse 26. The planet Earth supplied everyone his respective food. During the time of King Prithu, the earth was fully under the control of the king. Thus all the inhabitants of the earth could get their food supply by creating various types of calves and putting their particular types of milk in various pots. Verse 27, my dear Vidura, chief of the Kurus, in this way King Prithu and all the others who subsist on food created different types of calves and milked out their respective eatables. Thus they received their various foodstuffs, which was symbolized as milk. Wow, that's amazing, isn't that amazing? Okay, so let's go back. Where are we? Yes. To verse 13. And we've got just 5 minutes, 5-6 minutes. Let's start working our way through this section. And then tomorrow, we should easily finish the entire chapter, quite possibly in less than an hour. So verse 13, others who were as intelligent as King Prithu also took the essence out of the earthly planet. Indeed, everyone took this opportunity to follow in the footsteps of King Prithu and get whatever he desired from the planet Earth. Right, so there's a purport here. Let's have a look. Prabhupada says the earth is also known as Vasundara. Vasundara. Vasu means wealth, and Dara means one who holds. So all creatures within earth or on the earth can fulfill the necessities of humanity. And all living entities can be taken out of the earth by the proper means. Yeah, this is, in terms of milking things from the earth, not like just growing things on the earth. So as suggested by Mother Earth and accepted by Prithu Maharaj, whatever is taken from the earth, either from the mines, from the surface, from the atmosphere, should be considered the property of the Lord. And then it should be used for yajna, for sacrifice, for yajna, which is the name of Lord Vishnu, a form of Lord Vishnu, you can say. So as soon as sacrifice is stopped, all productions will be withheld. So Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains yajna is essential. And therefore by his arrangement it was instituted from the beginning of the universe. So by regular performance of yajna, equal distribution of wealth, and restriction of sense gratification, the entire world will be peaceful and prosperous. So therefore, what should be done, devotees? Sankirtan yajna should be introduced everywhere. Intelligent people should encourage Sankirtan by their example. It means they'll have to do austerity. They'll have to do austerity by following the 4 regulative principles. Otherwise, it's not going to really work so well. Oh yeah. So Srila Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, if the intelligent men or the Brahmins of society would follow the rules and regulations, certainly the entire face of this present world, which is in such chaotic condition, would change, and people would be happy and prosperous. So I think we'll just carry on tomorrow from verse 14. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.